What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here, and today we're going to be comparing the brand new Titan Fitness silencer drop pads with the tried and true pound pads, which I really love and I think are almost essential to anybody's garage gym or even CrossFit affiliates, but are admittedly a very expensive product, retailing at $400 for the pair, which ends up making them an aftersight for most people that are looking to build out a garage gym. This is a product that was built out of necessity, and I have to admit that they do price it as such because it was really the only one out there, is the only option that anybody ever had for a drop pad. So Titan Fitness came along and did what Titan Fitness always does, which they take a product, they copy it, and they make it with probably lower quality components and sell it for a whole lot less. Silencer drop pads retail for $127 for the pair, which is ridiculous. You can get 3 sets of these and still have some money left over for 1 set of the pound pads. Not saying that the pound pads are not worth the money, but they are very expensive. And I think, if you have a home gym, this is something that is necessary for that home gym. But anyways, let's go over the build quality difference. So the first thing that you're going to notice between the 2 sets of pads is that the Titans have a noticeably softer and more pliable nylon outer shell. It still feels okay. It's kind of like the same outer shell that's found on their soft plyo box. Whereas on the pound pad, it's a really taut, nice, heavy-duty feeling outer shell. I don't know how the Titans are going to wear over time, but the pound pads have held up really well in like the last year that I've had them. Another thing is the zipper on the Titans is noticeably smaller than or noticeably thinner than the zipper on the pound pads, which honestly I don't think is going to be that big a deal over time. It just seems like this zipper on the pound pads is going to be definitely more resistant, say something was to make contact with it. But I don't think very many people are going to run into that issue. If I were to grab both of these by the handles, which they both definitely have, they are 20 pounds each. I weighed the Titans at 21.8. I weighed the pound pads at 22 pounds. So they're pretty much the same weight. You can see if I try to pick up the Titans, the outer shell is more flexible and more pliable. There's a lot more give than on the pound pads. The pound pads, the stitching is a lot tighter in that area, and then just the outer shell is a lot more taut. Now the stitching of the Titan pads is honestly, it's not bad. I actually had a little mishap where I dropped the barbell overhead on the edge of the Titan pad, and it pulled away a little bit at the seam, but it didn't actually break the stitching of the Titan pads, which actually surprised me because I thought I had done a lot more damage than actually happened. It's not as good as the stitching that's found on the pound pads, but it should hold up pretty well over time. And I mean, at the end of the day, these are $127. You could probably replace that and, it wouldn't be such a big difference. So inside of each of these pads is the same exact material. It's a rebonded foam. Basically, a bunch of different foams that are just pieced together and then just kind of like melted in to each other. So that's the, I guess, densest kind of foam that you can get your hands on. And when comparing the two, I have to say that the Titans definitely feels a little bit softer than the pound pads, but I think it absorbs impact a little bit better than the pound pads does. I had a complaint with the pound pads when I dropped them because, the barbell would go crazy all over the place. But with the silencer pads, it wasn't as big an issue. The overall dimensions between the 2 pads is pretty much the same exact thing. They're supposed to be 24 by 30 inches. The pound pads are 5 inches tall, whereas the Titan pads are 6 inches tall. So there's a little bit more cushioning, though the pound pads are a little bit more dense. The Titan pads are a little bit softer. So when it comes down to real world performance between the 2 pads, Vibration dampening is pretty much on par between the two. I didn't notice any kind of difference in vibration. Once again, I did notice that the Titans had a lower bounce than the pound pads did. When it comes to the sound deadening, the pound pads actually did a better job in deadening the sound. They produced a 93 decibel reading, whereas the Titan Fitness pads produced a 94 decibel reading in my garage right here with the door open. When I dropped the bar without either of these, it was like 108 decibels. So it was a pretty noticeable difference in loudness, but a really noticeable difference in sound. There's way less of a jarring sound when you drop it on the pads than when you drop it on like my wooden platform is what I'm using. Or if you were to drop it on, you know, just bare concrete or even like rubber stone mats. The difference is way noticeable. And if you have neighbors or people inside the house trying to rest, it's going to make a huge difference. There is, you know, still a loud sound when you're right next to it, but if you're in a room nearby or you're next door, you probably won't hear it at all. So when it comes down to it, I have to say that even though in the past I have not been all that satisfied with most of Titan Fitness's products, I gotta say I do recommend the Titan Fitness silencer drop pads. For $127 for the pair, every home gym needs a set of these. And you know, I really like pound pads. I think it's a great product, but I mean, at the end of the day, they're just charging way too much for these. And you know, people that are buying them need to have these. So, you know, it's hard for me to recommend this over this when you can get 3 pairs of the Titan pads for 1 set of the pound pads. Definitely recommend that you check out the Titan pads if you have a garage gym. If you own a gym that is in a retail space and you can't drop weights and you want to lift safely or go for PRs, you need a set of these silencer drop pads. Highly recommend them. $127 shipped. You cannot beat that price. If you guys have any questions about either of these products, the silencer drop pads or the pound pads, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And as always, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.